The jungle simulation buzzed with energy as the team set out on their first hunting challenge. Zora, Zeta, and their classmates stood shoulder to shoulder, their hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. The jungle around them was alive with sounds: the chirping of colorful insects, the rustle of leaves, and distant calls of unseen creatures. This was their chance to prove themselves. "Remember," Jax's voice echoed in their earpieces, "stay together as a team. Communication is key. If you split up, you might get lost or overwhelmed by the predators. Work together to track them down." Zora took charge, her eyes scanning the vibrant green foliage. "Okay, let's move quietly. We need to find the predator and observe its behavior before we make a plan," she instructed. The others nodded in agreement, their determination shining through. As they cautiously walked deeper into the jungle, Zeta spotted movement among the trees. "Look," she whispered, pointing to a robotic predator, a sleek, mechanical panther with glowing red eyes. It moved gracefully, blending into the shadows, its sensors scanning for any signs of life. Zora's heart raced. "This is our chance. We need to track it without being detected." She motioned for everyone to spread out slightly but stay within sight. They moved like shadows, mimicking the panther's stealthy steps. "Do you see how it moves?" Zora whispered to her team. "We need to observe its patterns. Let's stay hidden and watch for a while." The students crouched behind thick bushes, their breaths held as they focused on the predator. Zeta was both frightened and fascinated. "It's so fast. How do we even begin to think we can outsmart something like that?" "Just remember," Zora replied, "it's a machine. It has a set pattern, just like a wild animal would. If we can figure out its behavior, we can plan our approach." As they watched, the panther began to circle a tree. "It's checking its territory," Zora noted. "If we're quiet and quick, we can flank it and get closer." They took a collective breath and moved in synchronization, staying low and using the thick vegetation as cover. Every step was deliberate, every sound monitored. The thrill of the hunt electrified the air around them. Suddenly, the panther turned its head sharply, sensing something. Zeta gasped, but Zora quickly pressed a finger to her lips, signaling silence. They crouched even lower, hearts racing. The predator's eyes scanned the area, glowing ominously in the shadows. "Don't move," Zora whispered, feeling the tension build among her teammates. They stayed perfectly still, hoping the mechanical beast would lose interest. After a few tense moments, the panther resumed its circling. "Now," Zora urged, "let's go while it's distracted." They quickly repositioned themselves, inching closer to the panther's path. The thrill of the chase consumed them as they moved in closer, adrenaline rushing through their veins. They watched intently, waiting for the right moment. Zeta couldn't help but admire how Zora took charge. The confidence radiating from her was inspiring. But then, disaster struck. As they crept closer, Zeta stumbled on a hidden root. She let out a small yelp, and in an instant, the panther turned towards them, eyes glowing brighter with a low, menacing sound. "Run!" Zora shouted. The students dashed away, hearts pounding as they sprinted through the jungle, trying to escape the attention of the robotic predator. As they ran, Zora glanced back and saw the panther springing into action, its powerful legs propelling it forward with shocking speed. "This way," she called, veering to the left, hoping to lose it in the dense underbrush. The team followed her lead, zigzagging through the thick foliage. Zeta's breath was heavy, and panic started to creep in. "What if it catches us?" she gasped, glancing over her shoulder. "We won't let that happen," Zora shouted, her voice strong. "Stay together. We can find a place to hide." Just then, they spotted a large boulder ahead, partially covered by vines. "Over there," Zora pointed, directing the group toward the rock. They all ducked behind it, pressing against the cool stone as they tried to catch their breath. For a moment, everything was quiet. The panther had lost their trail, its sensors likely scanning the area for any signs of movement. Zora looked at her teammates, adrenaline coursing through her. "That was too close," she whispered, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. Zeta nodded, her heart racing. "What do we do now?" "Now," Zora said, her confidence returning, "we plan. We can't just run away every time we encounter a predator. We need to think strategically." The other students nodded, starting to feel empowered by their experience. As they took a moment to catch their breath and regroup, Zora knew this was just the beginning of their adventure in the jungle. They were learning valuable lessons about teamwork, survival, and bravery, and she felt certain they would emerge stronger from this experience. The students huddled behind the boulder, their hearts still racing from the close call with the mechanical panther. As they caught their breath, Zora took a moment to gather her thoughts. This was not just a lesson about hunting. It was a chance to learn about strategy, teamwork, and the unexpected challenges they might face. "Okay, let's regroup," she said, glancing at each of her classmates. "We can't just run away every time something scary happens. We need to find a way to outsmart that panther." Zeta, still trembling from the adrenaline, nodded vigorously. "But how? It's faster and stronger than us. What can we possibly do?" Jax chimed in. "Remember what we learned in class. We can use the environment to our advantage. There are traps and distractions we can set. We just need to be smart about it." Zora's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "Exactly. We can set a trap near the watering hole. That's where the panther might go to drink. If we can lure it in, we might have a chance to observe it up close." The group started brainstorming. They discussed different ideas, drawing on their knowledge from biology class. They recalled the lesson on animal behavior and how creatures often followed certain patterns. "What if we create a noise to attract it?" Zeta suggested, her confidence building. "We could use some rocks to make a sound that mimics a prey animal." "I like that," Jax said, nodding. "If we make it sound like something is hurt, the panther might come running." "Good thinking, but we need to be careful," Zora warned. "We don't want to get caught off guard again. We'll need someone to watch for the panther while the rest of us set the trap." "Let me keep watch," Zeta offered. "I'm not as fast as you guys, but I can stay back and alert you if it comes near." "Perfect." Zora smiled, feeling the team's energy shift towards positivity and excitement. "Let's move quickly. We don't have much time before the panther resumes its patrol." The team sprang into action, moving carefully through the jungle, staying close to the ground. They made their way toward the watering hole, a small clearing surrounded by lush vegetation and tall trees. Zora led the group, her heart racing with anticipation. Once they arrived, they quickly set to work. Jax and another classmate began gathering rocks while Zora explained the plan to the rest. "We'll place the rocks near the edge of the water and create a sound that will attract the panther. Zeta will watch from the bushes and let us know if it approaches." After a few minutes of preparation, everything was in place. They stood back, ready to execute their plan. Zora could feel her pulse quicken as they waited in silence, the tension hanging in the air. Zeta crouched behind a thick bush, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Okay, I'm ready," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Let's do this," Zora said, taking a deep breath. She picked up a small rock and tossed it into the water, creating a gentle splash. Then they started to clink the stones together, mimicking the sound of a struggling animal. They all held their breath, listening intently. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Zeta's voice broke the silence. "I think I see it. It's coming this way." The students exchanged excited glances, adrenaline surging through them. Zora peered through the leaves and spotted the mechanical panther, stealthily approaching the watering hole. Its sensors glowed bright red as it moved closer, clearly intrigued by the noise. "Stay quiet," Zora whispered urgently. The panther paused at the edge of the clearing, scanning the area. Zora's heart raced. Would their plan work? Would they really get a chance to observe the predator up close? As the panther stepped forward, Zora felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was their moment. It was almost surreal watching the powerful machine act like a wild animal, drawn in by their ruse. Suddenly, the panther lunged towards the water, the robotic sounds echoing in the quiet jungle. "Now," Zora shouted. Jax and the others pulled back, staying hidden as the panther inspected the area. They watched in awe as it sniffed the ground, its glowing eyes scanning for any sign of prey. Zeta's voice came through the earpiece. "It's right by the rocks. It looks confused. This is amazing." Zora smiled, proud of her team's effort. They were learning to outsmart a predator. They were no longer just students. They were hunters, gathering knowledge and experience. But just as they started to feel triumphant, the panther suddenly turned, sensing something. It had picked up on Zeta's presence in the bushes. "Zeta, get back," Zora yelled, panic flooding her voice. Before Zeta could react, the panther pounced toward her hiding spot, its mechanical limbs moving with surprising speed. "Run," Jax shouted, and they all scrambled to their feet, heart racing as they dashed away from the watering hole. Zora felt a surge of fear. They had come so far, but now they needed to escape. Would they be able to regroup and outsmart the panther once more? As they ran through the jungle, she knew that this was just the beginning of their adventure, and they had much to learn about the wild and themselves. The students dashed through the thick underbrush, their hearts pounding in their chests. Zora led the way, pushing through the dense foliage with determination. Behind her, Jax, Zeta, and the others followed closely, their breath coming in quick bursts. The mechanical panther's growl echoed in the distance, a chilling reminder of their near encounter. "Keep moving. We need to find a safe place," Zora shouted over her shoulder, her mind racing. They had to regroup, reassess, and devise a new plan. As they ran, she spotted a narrow cave entrance partially hidden by vines and bushes. "In there," she pointed, and the group quickly darted inside. Inside the cave, it was dark and cool, the walls damp from the moisture seeping through. They huddled together, catching their breath, their eyes wide with excitement and fear. "Did you see how close it was?" Zeta gasped, still trembling from the thrill of the chase. "I thought it would catch me for sure." Zora nodded, her mind racing with thoughts. That was way too close. But it also taught us something important. We need to stick together and communicate better. Jax wiped the sweat from his forehead. "We were too eager to see the panther. Next time, we need a better plan for keeping watch." The group fell silent, each reflecting on the lessons learned from their encounter. They had felt a rush of excitement, but they also understood the danger they were in. Zora looked at her friends and realized that they had all become stronger because of it. "We should practice our strategies in case we run into the panther again," Zora suggested. "Let's use this cave as our base. We can work on our hunting techniques and communication skills." The students nodded in agreement, their enthusiasm returning. They had faced a challenge and survived. Now, they were ready to tackle the next steps. Zora took the lead, guiding her friends out of the cave and back into the jungle. "Okay, let's break into pairs. One of us will keep watch while the other practices moving silently through the underbrush. Remember, we want to stay hidden from the panther," Zora instructed. "Jax and I will go first. Zeta, you can team up with Rin." As they paired off, Zora felt a sense of excitement bubbling within her. This was their chance to learn, to become better hunters. They were no longer just students in a classroom. They were becoming skilled survivalists, capable of thriving in this harsh environment. Zora and Jax moved carefully through the thick underbrush, their eyes scanning for any sign of movement. "Stay low and quiet," Zora whispered, and Jax nodded, his face set in concentration. They practiced their movements, learning how to navigate the terrain without making noise. Zora could feel her senses sharpening as she focused on her surroundings. She was becoming attuned to the rhythms of the jungle. the sounds of rustling leaves, and the distant calls of other creatures. Meanwhile, Zeta and Rin were working on their own technique. Zeta had been feeling more confident after their close call with the panther. "Let's try to move like shadows," she said, crouching low as they made their way through the ferns. Rin nodded, impressed by her newfound bravery. As the pairs practiced, Zora could sense the energy in the air shifting. They were starting to work together, honing their skills and building trust. They took turns keeping watch, sharing tips and encouragement. After a while, Zora called everyone back together. "Okay, let's regroup and share what we've learned." The students gathered in a small clearing, their faces bright with excitement. Jax spoke first. "I think we can use distractions better. If we create noise in one direction, we can slip away quietly in the other." Zora smiled. "That's a great idea. We should always have a plan for diversions." Zeta chimed in. "I realized that we have to trust each other. If we communicate clearly, we can avoid getting caught off guard." Rin nodded, adding, "And we need to be aware of our surroundings. Every tree, every sound could be a clue about where the panther is." They all agreed, feeling empowered by their shared experiences. Zora could see the growth in each of her classmates. They were learning not just about hunting but about teamwork, communication, and bravery. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Zora knew they had come a long way since that first day in class. They were no longer just students. They were a team, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "Tomorrow, we'll put our skills to the test," Zora announced, a determined glint in her eyes. "We'll return to the watering hole and see if we can observe the panther again, but this time, we'll be ready." Excitement surged through the group as they prepared to head back to their makeshift camp. The jungle was alive with sounds, a reminder that they were part of something much larger. Zora felt a sense of belonging, a connection to her classmates, and the wild around them. As they settled in for the night, the stars twinkling overhead, Zora closed her eyes, filled with dreams of adventure and the promise of tomorrow. They were ready to become the hunters they had always dreamed of being, and nothing could hold them back. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the jungle. Zora awoke to the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves, a symphony of nature that filled her with excitement. Today was the day they would return to the watering hole, and she could hardly contain her eagerness. "Wake up, everyone," Zora called out as she crawled from her makeshift bedding of leaves and branches. "Today's the day we put our skills to the test." Jax, Zeta, Rin, and the others stirred, their faces brightening at the prospect of another adventure. They gathered around Zora, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Remember our plans from yesterday," Zora reminded them. "We'll split into pairs, keep watch, and use what we learned about distractions." After a quick breakfast of dried fruit and nuts, the group set off toward the watering hole, moving quietly through the dense underbrush. The thrill of the hunt pulsed through them as they trekked deeper into the jungle, their hearts beating in rhythm with the pulse of the wild. As they approached the watering hole, Zora motioned for everyone to stop. They crouched low behind a cluster of ferns, peering cautiously at the water's edge. The sun glimmered off the surface, illuminating the vibrant colors of the flowers surrounding the area. "Okay, everyone, let's take a moment to observe," Zora whispered, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Look for signs of movement or anything unusual." Jax pointed excitedly. "There, I see something moving in the bushes." The group held their breath, their eyes glued to the spot Jax indicated. Suddenly, a small herd of colorful creatures emerged from the foliage. They were skittish, their delicate legs trembling as they approached the water. Zeta giggled quietly. "They're so cute. Look at them." But Zora's focus was elsewhere. She was scanning the perimeter for any sign of the panther. "Stay alert, everyone. The panther might be close." Just then, a low growl echoed from the trees, sending shivers down their spines. The students froze. their hearts racing. "Did you hear that?" Rin whispered, eyes wide. "Yes, but we can't panic," Zora replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We need to keep watch and stay focused." Zora signaled for the group to spread out, each pair moving to a different vantage point around the watering hole. She partnered with Jax, while Zeta teamed up with Rin. They were determined to remain quiet and aware of their surroundings. As they settled into their positions, Zora felt the thrill of anticipation surging through her. This was what they had been training for. She could see the excitement mirrored in Jax's eyes as he crouched beside her, scanning the area. Minutes passed, and the sound of the herd drinking at the water's edge filled the air. Zora felt a sense of calm wash over her. Perhaps today would be a peaceful observation. But just as she began to relax, a shadow darted across their field of vision. Zora's heart dropped as she recognized the sleek, powerful form of the mechanical panther. It moved with graceful agility, its eyes glinting as it stalked toward the unsuspecting herd. "Everyone, get ready," Zora whispered urgently, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "It's here." The group sprang into action, positioning themselves to keep watch and gather information. Zora held her breath as the panther paused, its muscles tense as it prepared to pounce. Suddenly, the herd sensed danger, their heads jerking up in alarm. Zora could see the panic in their eyes as they began to scatter, darting in all directions. "Now," Zora shouted. "Jax, create a distraction." Jax nodded, his face determined. He grabbed a handful of small stones and tossed them toward the bushes to the left, creating a noise that echoed through the jungle. The panther's attention shifted instantly, its eyes narrowing as it turned to investigate the sound. "This is it," Zora thought, her heart racing. "Zeta, Rin, now's your chance," Zora shouted. "Use the moment to observe how the panther reacts." The pair watched in awe as the panther, momentarily distracted, prowled toward the noise. Zeta and Rin exchanged glances, realizing this was the perfect opportunity to gather vital information about the predator's hunting techniques. As the panther moved away from the watering hole, Zora felt a rush of triumph. They were learning. They were witnessing the predator's behavior firsthand, and it was exhilarating. However, the moment was fleeting. The panther quickly regained its focus, returning to the watering hole in search of its prey. Zora knew they needed to be cautious. "Back to your positions. We have to stay out of sight," she urged, and everyone quickly complied. With the adrenaline still pumping, Zora felt a sense of urgency in her chest. This was their chance to learn and adapt. As the panther continued its hunt, the group observed every detail, the way it moved, the precision of its stalking, and its instincts as it assessed the environment. "Remember, this is a lesson in survival," Zora reminded them, her voice low but firm. "We're learning how to become the hunters ourselves." The thrill of the moment filled Zora's heart with hope. They were no longer just students in a classroom. They were now hunters in the wild, ready to learn from nature's most powerful predators. They were becoming part of the jungle, and nothing could hold them back. The jungle thrummed with life as Zora and her classmates remained hidden, their hearts racing with a mix of fear and excitement. The panther, sleek and agile, prowled the edge of the watering hole, its senses keen, scanning for the slightest movement. "Look at how it moves," Zora whispered to Jax, who was crouched beside her. "It's so focused." Jax nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's like it knows exactly what it's doing. We have to be just as careful." The tension in the air thickened as the panther inched closer to the edge, its muscles coiling like a spring. Zora felt her breath catch in her throat. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. They were witnessing nature's raw power firsthand, and it was awe-inspiring. "Remember what we learned in class," Zora urged the group. "Patience, stealth, and adaptability. If we want to learn from this predator, we must be just as cunning." Suddenly, a rustling noise erupted from the nearby bushes. Zora's heart raced as she turned to see a large creature emerge, one that resembled a wild boar. The panther's eyes lit up with a predatory glint as it locked onto the unsuspecting prey. "Everyone, stay still," Zora hissed, her heart pounding. The boar ambled towards the watering hole, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. The panther crouched low, its body tense and ready to spring. Zora could hardly breathe as she watched the scene unfold, every instinct telling her to run. Yet her fascination kept her frozen in place. "Look, it's going to attack," Rin whispered, his eyes fixed on the panther. As the boar dipped its snout into the water, the panther sprang forward with lightning speed. It leaped through the air, its powerful legs propelling it towards the unsuspecting prey. Zora could hardly believe her eyes as she watched the panther's incredible agility and strength. But just as the panther lunged, the boar reacted with surprising swiftness. It turned, using its tusks to defend itself, and the two animals clashed in a fierce struggle. The students gasped, their hearts racing as the raw power of nature played out before them. "Observe," Zora urged, excitement coursing through her. "This is a lesson in survival. Watch how they fight." The struggle was intense, with the panther darting in and out, attempting to gain the upper hand. But the boar fought back fiercely, using its size and strength to defend itself. The sound of growls and grunts filled the air, echoing through the jungle as the two creatures battled. Zora's eyes widened as she took in every detail: the panther's tactics, the way it used its surroundings to its advantage, and how the boar reacted in defense. This was an extraordinary opportunity to learn about predator and prey dynamics. "This is incredible," Jax murmured, completely absorbed in the spectacle. "I never knew they could be so fierce." Just then, the panther managed to gain the upper hand, gripping the boar's leg with its powerful jaws. The boar let out a desperate grunt, and for a moment, it looked as though the panther would prevail. "Keep watching," Zora encouraged, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is how life works in the wild." But the battle wasn't over. The boar mustered its strength and managed to shake the panther off, charging back towards the thick underbrush. The panther, startled, leaped away and regained its footing. "That was amazing," Zita exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Did you see how it adapted? It didn't give up." Zora nodded, her heart racing. "Exactly. Both of them showed incredible resilience. This is what we need to learn: how to adapt, to be relentless, just like them." As the panther stalked away, defeated but not broken, Zora felt a surge of determination. They were here to learn, and this experience was invaluable. "Okay, everyone, let's regroup," Zora called out softly. "We need to discuss what we observed. This was an incredible lesson, but we must be smart about how we approach this next time." The students quickly gathered together, their faces alight with excitement and energy. "What did everyone learn?" Zora asked, eager to hear their thoughts. Jax raised his hand, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "The panther was so agile. It used its speed to its advantage. And the boar was fierce," Rin added. "It fought back even when it was in danger. That's something we need to remember." Zita chimed in. "We saw how they both adapted to the fight. We need to think like them in our own lives." Zora smiled, proud of her classmates. "Exactly. Every encounter in the wild is a lesson. And today we witnessed something extraordinary. We have to take this knowledge back with us. The next time we're in a dangerous situation, we can apply what we learned today." As they discussed their observations, the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. The jungle, alive with sounds, seemed to embrace them as they prepared to leave the watering hole. "We may have lost sight of the panther," Zora said, "but we have gained something even more valuable: understanding. The wild is unforgiving, but it is also where we can learn to grow stronger. Remember that." With their hearts full of newfound knowledge and excitement, the group made their way back through the jungle, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were becoming a part of this world, learning to navigate its complexities and building their resilience with each passing day. And as they walked under the fading light of the sun, they knew this was just the beginning of their adventure in the wild.